All right, guys. So Zach and I got a lot of requests for a couple things to present on at HKI, and this was one of them: Tama Control Measurable Mastery. So Zach and I want to take you guys through 9 levels of Tama Control today that we believe is a great system of how to progress at any level, whether you're a beginner or going through more advanced to AM to pro level in the open divisions that we have now. So a little bit about us. Zach and I have been playing Kendama for 13 years, actually as of today. Yeah. 13-year anniversary today. Yeah, didn't plan that, but just so happened to be 13-year anniversary today, January 11th. So we've been playing since 2012. And we've been playing at the professional level for over a decade. And what this means is, since ever 2014, we've been entering competitions at the pro level, and been traveling all over the world for that. And Zach and I would consider ourselves very avid Tama Control players, meaning some of our favorite tricks always involve manipulating the Tama in a way to make it go to some sort of stall, some sort of spike. It's been our favorite trick for a long time, and it's honestly, especially back in 2018, 2017, it's what we started to get known as very, as Tama Control players.
Mm-hmm. Back in those days, not a lot of people were juggling. I feel like Nick and I were maybe some of the first people to start doing juggles to bird and juggles to stalls more frequently. Mm-hmm. So it's been a part of our game for a long time.
Right. And so this is us 10 years ago. This is one of our first ever juggle spike tricks posted on Instagram. This is for me. Over here, Ken flip juggle, like Ken flip spike. This yanked in. So this is where we're starting from. 2014, 2015. Over here, this is Zach.
Yep, this is my first trick where I actually realized that I could control the Tama a little bit. My first time, if you see on this last juggle to spike here, you can see the Tama rotate forward, and that was literally the first time that I kind of thought about it, and like, oh my gosh, I can kind of do this. And that was after a year and a half of juggling. So just to give you context about how long it took me to do that.
Right. So this is us a decade ago, first beginnings of Tama Control, and then to now. So this is some more recent clips of us controlling the ball a little bit better, catching it on wing, one of the hardest stalls on a kendama, and yeah, as you can see, we've just been kept going and going on improving our Tama Control from then.
Yeah.
Today, by the end of this presentation, you will learn 3 things: our top lessons of Tama Control we've learned over the past 13 years, how to progress through 9 levels of Tama Control, and how to identify where your current level is right now, immediately.
Yeah. So these 9 levels are how the 9 levels of how we progressed, looking back on our journey of Tama Control, and a route that if you guys want to measurably progress, you can follow too if you like.
Yeah. Based off our own experiences, we've created 9 belts. 9 belts, starting at the first one being no belt. And we're going to get right into it. This is going to be the easiest, and then all the way up to black, this is going to be the top level. Here we go, guys. No belt equals cup control. So what do we mean by cup control? This is the basics of before juggling, before anything. This is how you get control between going through the cups and actually going to cup spikes. And so this means you're just getting into kendama, right? You're looking to get the spike from the cups, and we're not going to be talking quickly about cup spikes and also down spikes, just controlling through each cup from each position. Main tip for cup spikes, cup control, as you can see here, is the straightness of the ball. You want to be keeping it on this axis right here. This is the most ideal way, is to keep it straight facing you. It's easy to see in this one here. Isaac talks a little bit about it in his Tama Control tutorial. That was a great way to articulate it. You want to keep it straight on that axis right there, straight towards you. And that goes for hopping between the cups with the pull up as well. You'll notice here that when I pull up to the ball, that I get it on that line immediately. It's facing towards my face. It's facing towards me, and that's the best way to set yourself up to go between all the cups. Because ideally, when I go into Tama Control a little deeper and deeper along the way, setting yourself up the most optimal position possible from the beginning, that takes care of half the work. So if you're able to set yourself up optimally right here, this is the most basic example, you'll see that it's quite easy from there to make the right adjustments and to get to the spike at the very end. This is what an example that I would not recommend. This is how I'm pulling up just very quickly. If I were going to around Japan like I did in the last video, for example, if I'm setting up like this and the Tama is on the left side, it's not on that straight axis, it's not facing me, this is where you can see that you're going to take a lot more adjustments. It's going to take a lot more effort to get to the final spike, and it's just going to, I mean, you can obviously, once you progress, you can make the adjustments, but ideally, if you're doing it correctly from the beginning, it's going to be so much easier. So this is not a straight pull-up, and then this is Tama hold position when you're going through the cups. As you can see right here, it's rolling off the cup. And so what I talked about a little bit in the first slide was having it go up straight. So right here, you'll notice that the Tama hold is really not moving at all. It's staying straight up. I'm trying to float it up. And when I'm rolling it off, you'll see, if people aren't careful, it'll look something like that. And that will lead to inconsistent final versions of going to the spike from this last cup here. Down spikes, here's what, for this to focus on, it's relatively the same concept. This one, and what I like, and you'll notice when we get into this, the more and more as we progress through the levels, one thing stays the same, is that when the Tama hold is usually facing towards you or towards your dominant hand, you know you're in an optimal position. This one for down spike, I can recommend the same thing here. This is straight up. Ideally, you want the Tama hold straight up for every down spike. But the we'll say the second most optimal position here is if, for example, I'm left-handed, it's my dominant hand, straight up, or any way towards my dominant hand. If it's facing away, you're gonna have to go like this, across your body outwards. If you can go on top or towards in your body, you'll notice that not only for this basic trick here, but for more levels as we could progress through juggles, spikes of birds, you're gonna be wanting to have it around on this side. It's very, very important to actually remember later on. Always aim to have the hold facing straight up or in the direction of your dominant hand. Down spikes. So this, you might have been wondering, how do you know what level you're at right now? This is what I mean by that. This is a graduation test. So these are consistency standards. We know a lot of people nowadays want to know not only where they're at, but how to progress and how to actually get better in the now and be more consistent for competition, in person. This is a way for that. So graduation test, all numbers in the parentheses are out of 10 attempts. So if you were to test yourself today with one of us, or just by yourself, you'd be going through around Japan and you have to hit 6 times out of 10. Base cup, down spike, 6 times out of 10. Around Europe, 5 times out of 10. That's every cup to spike in a row. And then around down spike. This one, especially, is a very, very good trick to practice. But once you throw it through a graduation test and you pass it all, meeting the standards for all the consistency checks, you can now move on to the next belt, which is white belt. And in white belt today, we're going through trades. And so what is a trade? Trade is swapping it between the 2 pieces in one motion. This is called a trade, especially you've noticed maybe at NACO, they're very strict between trade and swap. Very, very defined way. Yeah, Jack did a great job with that. This is the most basic versions of trades that we first started out with when we were playing 13 years ago. Base cup, trade airplane, going to lighthouse trade spike, going to the airplane from the cups here. First ever trades a player can do. Optimal tip for lighthouse trade spike, what to focus on, keep the Tama hold straight up. You'll notice a recurring theme here, but I think it just needs to be said over and over. Get the ideal position from the get-go, and it's going to make everything a lot easier going forward. Pretty self-explanatory. I think that it's, yeah, you can see here, having the Tama hold setting up underneath the base cup is going to make it straight up and have you have the most ideal position for the trade spike. As we move on to cup straight airplane, it's the same exact thing. Keep the Tama hold straight up. Zach and I have learned that, honestly, for not only this, but base cup, trade airplane as well. It works the same way. It's keeping the Tama hold straight up. Right here, I have big cup, trade airplane here. The rule is relatively the same. I was actually going over this with Griffin just yesterday, and it could be straight up, or for half turns it can be up right here or facing away from you. Mainly, the ideal positions for these 2 cups here is straight up and facing away. Right there. Yeah. Those are the ideal positions for that. And once we get to the graduating test here for white belt, it's pretty, I mean, these are actually the basic tricks. So we've kind of been showing you through the GIFs on the screen here, but to actually progress through these, after you learn the optimal positions, the optimal tips for these that we've, for our experiences, this is how you can test them. Big cup trade to airplane, as we saw in the last slide here. This one right here on the right. It's 5 times each. Lighthouse trade spike 5 times out of 10. Small cup trade to airplane 4 times out of 10. Base cup trade to airplane 4 times out of 10. You might be noticing, wow, this means I have to have a 40% success rate, 50% success rate. I've been inspired to actually really emphasize consistency, especially when we're comparing to Japan consistency standards. They have JKA regulation testing. I think some people are aware of it. Some people have actually done it themselves at different competitions. And once you get up to the highest levels, I mean, at the JK competition specifically, they're expected to not only get it, 40%, 50%, but actually up to 80%. And I thought, wow, there's just different levels, different standards. And I think that there's room to improve on that for us over here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And hopefully one person, at least out of the group, is taking a picture of all of these.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely encourage you guys to take pictures of each graduation test. Yeah.
We will definitely be sending them later on.
Yeah.
But if you want a visual representation,
yeah,
with the belts too.
And then one thing more on the Tama control for the cup placement on these trades. That is just so we're doing this entire presentation, every single belt, every single level that we go through is really just focusing on what to focus on. Our goal is within these belts is to help you guys think of as little as possible. We're giving you tips to optimize your play, to whether it be focusing on the Ken when you get into juggling, or the Tama control. These tips, if you put it up, if it's just like this, you now only have to focus on the Ken. You don't have to think of where's the Tama, or like, okay, now when it's here, like I have to readjust, and then I have to also track the Ken. No, we're really just mitigating as many just factors of the trick as possible with these. And so these Tama control chips is really just to make it as easy as possible for you guys, because once you have these little tweaks, you can just allocate most of your focus to the hardest part of the trick, which is, for this, that would be the in, and for juggles to spike, that would be, well, it's a little opposite, but juggles, you'd be focused on having your juggles clean, and then you'll be tracking the hole.
Right.
You see what I mean? Yeah.
Right. Zach and I, he just said it, but as little thinking as possible, not only how to do the trick based on our own experiences, but how to actually get to the next one, how to progress, and to know when you're ready to take the next jump. A lot of people don't know, even if they know the tips, when am I ready to go to the next level? How do I know if I'm good enough at this stage already? This is what we're trying to have you not think about. We want to give you the steps to do the trick in the best way possible, but also to get you ready for the next level. And how do I know when I'm at the next level is when you can complete a test like this. Less thinking, more doing, per se. Next one, yellow belt, swap spikes.
Boom.
Swap spike. What are swap spikes? Switching between the Tama and Ken in 2 motions, then spiking. So a little opposite from a trade, you'll see here that it's not coming out my hand at the same time, but in 2 motions. I flip the Ken up and then flip the Tama up after that. It's 1, 2. Simple definition of that can be explained here with 1.5 swap trade spike, lighthouse, flip, trade spike, and lunar swap, trade spike. Right here, this is yellow belt. The optimal thing here to focus on is the straight toss, no spin. And this is super important, especially for players now. When we get into swapping versus spinning, the Tama control here, when you're floating it down compared to spinning, this is where some players get confused. And in personal experience, who I've talked to, if you learn one after the other, and I guess actually I'm not going to say the wrong way, but if you learn the spinning version before the swap version, like this, before floating down, I've seen problems later on when people can't correct that. It makes it very difficult to do more precise tricks like swapping a bird. They'll be spinning it, trying to grab. Yeah, this is why this is in order first. Straight toss, no spin. Wait until the Ken rotates 1 full J stick. I've noticed people, the timing is, even if they know how to do the swap, the timing is the other thing that people kind of worry about and stress about. They don't know when to flip it. I've always done it when the Ken does a full J stick. So when it's right here, gets past this point, flip, this is when I'm swapping. When I swap, I try to wait as long as possible. If that's hard to focus on, just think in your head, wait as long as I possibly can before swapping the Tama, and that'll usually get you around there. This is the airplane 1.5 swap trade spike. And what's cool about this one is that it's such a versatile move that once you learn this, these almost come automatically. Lighthouse flip trade spike, you'll realize it's the same exact motion, especially with lighthouse. But even for lunar, it's a half rotation here, but these are huge tricks to master, especially for tricks in your open division. You'll be seeing these mess a lot of people up the final spikes. If anybody catches the flip trade spike, it's pretty big. And so mastering 1.5 trade spike from airplane and then going to these guys over here, it's almost a seamless transition. Technique is relatively the same. It's very, very similar.
Mm-hmm. And then one tip on these trade spikes is you're floating it up. See how when I swap it, for example, I'm flipping the Ken, and then my hand's going like this to flip, and I come back down, and then from down here again, then I'm throwing it up and I'm zeroing it up for the spike. You really want to think about it's kind of just like, in comparison to juggles and everything, it's kind of just like dropping it. I always visualized when I started, okay, how do I make this work? It's so hard for me to get really clean control. It's going everywhere. I just thought of just dropping it on. Yes, it's not exactly like I'm going and then dropping it from here, but it just really helped in my brain to just think of, okay, very, very slight release. I'm dropping it on. Just, you're tilting it up. And then it's the lightest drop, right? The lightest drop from here, lightest release. And then as you get better and better, the Tama hole is just going to fall towards you.
Two-step motion.
Two-step motion. Yeah. One,
Not
two.
at the same time. Graduation test. Airplane, 1.5 swap spike 5 times out of 10. Lunar, swap spike 5 times out of 10. Lighthouse, 1-turn swap trade spike, swap spike. Sorry about the word on that. 4 times out of 10. And stilt, swap spike 4 times out of 10. Ideally, this is what Zach and I care about a lot, is learning the move not only out of one position, but several. Mm-hmm. So airplane 1.5 swap trade spike, 1.5 swap spike, that is going to help you learn the base for these. And then from here, you're practicing the swap spike motion from lunar, from lighthouse, and even from stilt. So these are not only to get comfortable with the beginner tricks, stilt, lighthouse, and lunar, but to ideally be able to do swaps very consistently out of each position. That's going to make you a very versatile player no matter what. Even when you're competing or when you're filming, you're going to be doing a lot more things and be more comfortable doing a lot more enders. It's going to make you a lot more well-rounded. This is graduation test for swaps. And then next, green belt swaps and down spikes. So as I talked about earlier, this is the difference between the last swap spike. Last time we were talking about floating it down. This is where we're going to get into the spin. So what is it switching between the Tama and Ken in 2 motions going to down spike? Right here, single swap, down spike. There's representation there. I included this because this is the easiest build-up I can think of before you actually get to the swap down spikes, before we learn the finger roll, things like this. This is to practice the timing, and it's the exact same as you would do for a down spike. Airplane, single swap base cup, great practice for catching in down spike grip. A nice little progression that everyone can use to take steps towards this right here, Tama spin. So we wanted to make a significant slide for this because this is a huge technique that you see every single person now using in Kendama, 99%. And I learned this actually 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I learned the Tama spin. And I found out that I was just going to use it for down spikes like this, swapping down spike. But then I started realizing I could use it for a lot of things like juggle airplane, juggle the stilt. It's really helped my top control game and really gave me an edge, especially years going forward. People were wondering how was the top control so consistent, and this is a big part in that. So for Tama spin,
why is it so effective?
Because for Tama spin here, as you can see, every time, if the ideal part is if it doesn't look like spin at all, it's going to be in the same spot every single time. If you're consistent at the spin, you're going to be coming off not only swap down spikes every time this way, but you're going to be coming off juggles in the same spot every time as well. So you're not going to have to think about what you're swapping to or how you're swapping the ball because it's just going to be automatic. It's another thing that you're doing unconscious, something you can just take away. It's kept my Tama control very, very consistent.
Mm-hmm. And as you guys level up in your Tama control, where you're juggling to spikes more consistently, juggling to stalls, the Tama spin keeps that hole on facing in the direction of your dominant hand.
Yes.
And once you have that, once you're at that point, your juggles will be more fluent, so you're not really thinking about juggling. Your guys will probably be comfortable, super comfortable with the juggling technique. It's like, okay, that's automatic. All I have to really focus on is getting the juggle to spike. When the spin is here, if you just lob it up, it's just gonna fall back towards you, towards the right, towards an optimal spiking position, towards your dominant hand. It's not coming over here where you have to make a glide save or anything. It just falls towards you. So that's why the Tama control is so huge, and that's how Nick was really just being able to lace all his amazing juggle to stall tricks back in the day, because he was just controlling the Tama from the same position every single time. And going back to what we said earlier, just making it so much easier for you guys to take that thinking process out of it.
Very important here, Tama spin. And then we go to the single swap down spike. This is the best intro trick I can think of to utilize, not only going to swap down spikes, but honestly the finger roll as well. This Tama spin this is exactly how I first learned it, is just through swap down spikes. Going through juggles, it gets a lot more complicated. This is on the next level. So this is what we thought was the most digestible trick to learn first with it. Single swap down spikes, there's no juggle required, just focusing on the spin, catching it, and landing the trick. Using the Tama spin technique, waiting until the Ken does 3/4 of a rotation, ideally until it gets about 3/4 of a rotation around. So it'd be right here, wait until the last moment. I have that mental cue in your head. Wait until the last moment and then catch, spin, down spike. This is how I really practiced the finger spin. This is where I knew, okay, is it spinning cleanly? Is it spinning like this? Or is it spinning kind of like crazy? Is it consistent enough yet? This is how I tested myself there.
And to learn the couple tips for the finger roll technique, I really recommend getting a vertical or a horizontal stripe Dama. You can really see the cleanliness of your spin if you play one of these, because you'll be able to tell really quickly if it's going crazy. What we're really doing with the finger spin is using the pointer finger and index finger. That's really it. The ring finger is supporting. It's adding that support from the bottom. But when we're swapping, I'm just using these two fingers to roll away. So it's kind of like that. If you guys practice in your hand, it's literally moving the elbow back like this, using my pointer and middle finger to just come away. I'm coming away from myself and just really focusing on rolling that and spinning it away. And you'll get better at this as you move on. And I would just start by practicing in your hand like this, like so. When I roll it, I don't roll it facing up like this. I'm not like spinning like the side. It's actually a slight angle. So I'm going from straight up to tilting it to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock max. And that's how I'm practicing the spin. And then as you move on, you can get that cleaner and cleaner. You can move on to trying it from single swaps and just honing that in. It's not going to happen overnight, but once you get the technique down, swap to down spikes will be automatic, and then other tricks will start to be more automatic for you guys as well.
Green belt graduation test, fairly simple here. Airplane single swap to base cup. We want that 8 out of 10 times. We want this mastered, this technique, this combo, and the airplane single swap down spike 5 times out of 10. Very simple here. Going to purple belt, this is juggles to spike. This is a very popular place where people tend to get attracted to or get stuck at. Juggle spike is really important in everyone's Tama's control journey. So what exactly is it? In this level, you are first learning how to control the Tama from a juggle. This is the very first step to a lot of people's ideal tricks, a lot of people's dream tricks. It all starts with something like this here. Zach and I have talked to you guys, some of you guys already this weekend, about multiple juggles and juggle spike. We believe truly that from our experiences, we've noticed that learning how to juggle in itself first, before focusing heavily on juggling a spike from different positions, is going to get you farther in the long run, and hopefully it encourages you to stick with juggles for a longer time as well. We've noticed that if people tend to focus on trying to learn juggles first, like single juggles, double juggles, and then also trying to juggle spike a lot, they're thinking of too much at the same time. Their technique with the juggles and then technique with the whole control. It's very difficult to master this. So we thought breaking it, and this is how actually we did it growing up as well, breaking down multiple juggles first, getting up to 5, 6, 7, eventually 10 consistently. And then after that, when we knew we could juggle unconsciously and go just only focus on Tama control, that's when we thought that was the time to make the jump. Now was the time to make the leap to really focus, go all in on controlling the ball out of juggles. So we really emphasize taking it one step at a time and focusing on multiple juggles first. After that, once you're comfortable with juggles, juggling to spike, there are a couple ways to do the juggle to spike. This is one of the variations here, rotating the Tama hole to the palm, creating a manual earth turn. You'll be seeing that to do a consistent juggle spike, one of the options is this. I'm rotating it inward, and what you want is that hole making contact with your hand. You want it to aim for your palm here. So it's going to be literally, you can feel it with your hand here, and then from here, you're going to be pushing it back. You're doing a manual earth turn, as listed here, and it's going to push back, ideally straight back to the spike. And that can only happen right here so cleanly, because if you have that many points of contact on the hole, that's going to make it that much easier to push it back and have you actually feel it go right to the spike. Another way I personally like doing it is doing a full earth turn from the get-go. Instead of doing a half boom boom like this, it's more so a full earth turn like that. I don't know if you guys could see that difference, but instead of half up here, I'm doing a ghost pull-up. It's kind of like a dry spike, boom, and then from here, full earth turn to the spike. There's a couple of different variations. I like to do both depending on what setting I'm in, but these are a couple ways you can do a consistent juggle spike if you get enough practice. Right here is the graduation test for juggle spike. This is really, really important. 10 consecutive juggles, which we mean just getting to 10 in a row, is using, so this is 10, that'd be 1. That'd be 1 rep, 6 times out of 10. Juggle to spike 5 times out of 10. As you'll maybe notice as we go along to these higher levels, you're going to realize, oh, these are going to take me a lot longer to reach the consistency standards. This is actually going to take a good amount of time the more we get up, because to get consistent at these harder tricks, it's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take consistent and focused practice, and these are standards that we truly believe that will help people get to a realistic level of performing not only in person in front of people but also in competition. The standard of consistency is just needs to be a little raised based on our experience over the past 13 years. This is how we've been able to compete at the level for so long, is because mindlessly this was just who we were comparing ourselves with over in Japan, over in the highest level of competitions. Okay, it's got to be something like this, and it's got to be this X amount of times out of 10. Very, very high consistency rate.
And yeah, we're just trying to make you guys, for your guys' foundation, just the foundation demons. We're trying to make you guys demons when it comes to foundation, baby. Let's go, you know. And for one last tip on the Tama control, a lot of you guys have questions. You know, how do I control the Tama? Like, do I just push it forward? And you know, what does that look like? Yes, when you have multiple juggles down like nothing, 10 consecutive juggles, 6 times out of 10, you're good. You're proficient at juggles.
Yes.
You're not thinking of, you know, how's my juggle form? No, it's good. It's good. You can do it. So really, and I was talking to Drew and Matthew a little bit last night about this. When I'm juggling, I've really noticed the control, how I'm controlling the Tama, isn't actually with my palm. In fact, my palm actually isn't even touching the Tama in these juggles, the palm of my hand. But what I'm really utilizing and how I'm getting such precise control is I'm using the bed of my fingers. So if you look at this, my hand isn't stiff when I'm juggling. I'm not juggling like this. And when I'm using my fingers, some people use their fingers and they're still going like this. I'm more so, I'm kind of have it created like a cup. It kind of cups, and my Tama never touches my palm. It never touches it. It's always just in this little basket. This little finger basket right here. Okay? I just spit, I'm sorry. And so basically I think that really, really helps, because the fingers are, you have 4 fingers to work with here. You have 1 palm. It makes so much sense how you can get way more precise control in like this. Even when I'm bouncing it, right? Like, it's not touching it. It's just, I'm just floating it with the palm of my fingers, or the bed of my fingers. So just wanted to say that for you guys too, when you guys focus on this and you're learning juggle to spike. That's what I usually do. That's how my form looks like to get precise control of juggle, birds, stalls, etc.
And a lot of people have, I'm sure maybe you guys have said it, I think we've all said it once in our lives, oh, it must be like you watch someone who's very proficient, for example, at juggles or something else you want to be doing, and they can just do it consistently in person. You might think, man, it must just be so fun to just be able to do that right now, just on command. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
This is how you do it. Realistically, this is consistency, to be able to do it in front of people, to show everyone in performances. This is how it gets fun. You're just doing the reps, getting the consistency up.
Yeah. Now, blue belt, juggle to down spike. Let's just switch spots.
Okay.
Juggling to down spike. We're in the last couple belts here, guys. Juggling to down spike. So, in this level, you're learning to control the Tama so that you can consistently juggle the down spike. Here in these examples, I'm doing it from 3 different positions, from pull-up, out of the 1.5, and then out of spike. My main tip for juggles to down spike, at this point you have juggles to spike consistent. It's just that juggle to down spike that feels a little weird. It's another half rotation. This can be something to definitely conquer. It's definitely way different feeling than regular juggle to spike. But my main tip actually for you guys hoping to do this and getting consistency on it is that juggle to down spike can actually become much more comfortable than regular spike. What do I mean by that? Because that is not, I don't think a lot of people will actually say that. I see Drew shaking his head. Depends on your level. So what I mean by that is this. On the right, or on the left, I have juggle spike positions of, how comfortable am I to juggle spike here with the Tama position. So let's say the Tama position is facing my right hand. Okay, it's falling here. I'm making that all day. Right here, yeah, it's a quick one. Okay, I'm here, snag, dude. It's easy. Okay, here, that's getting a little tough. I might be able to do one of these. Probably not. It's probably not going to happen. Over here, that's not happening. That's probably not. What am I going to do that? Am I really going to do that? I mean, some people have done it. I've seen it. It doesn't really happen that often. Okay, over here, okay? Yeah, no. And then when you come back around here, yes, we can go boom, boom. It's possible to do from all positions, but I'm saying the easiest ones, you're going to be right here in this position right here, okay? Now, let's take a look on the right. As you can see, you can only see green and yellow arrows. Yellow meaning it's possible. I mean, honestly, yellow for down spike. The only reason they're yellow right here is because it wouldn't be technically a down spike. Are you spiking that in down spike grip if you're here? Hell yeah. You should Sarah grip that. It's still going in. It's still going in. You're freestyling. People aren't going to be like, dude, that wasn't a down spike. No, that's a spike. Keep going. Keep going, Notice how there's no red arrows. There's no red arrows. Because the angle, you have so much more versatility of down spike. You're here, obviously, boom, 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 boom. This isn't that awkward. No, you can still definitely get this. People get this all the time. This is how you can go, boom, you can flow in. Like, you're setting yourself up. And even when it does come into the least optimal spot, bottom diagonal away from your dominant hand, all right? If you're left-handed, that's going to look like this. Right-handed, looks like this. Okay, hand down spike it. Whoop, a little swoop it. Swoop it action. It's still possible.
Or even in penguin grip.
Or even in penguin grip. That's a little more advanced. I mean, yeah, that's a little more advanced. Coming down, it's like, okay, I'll switch. Yeah. But I'm just saying the Sarah grip is so much more versatile, whereas the juggle to spike, I mean, really, like this probably isn't going to happen. The thing that separates the juggle spike and juggle down spike is the juggling technique. And really, yes, my main tip for that is you practice a lot. You're waiting a millisecond longer. You're really just waiting a millisecond longer than a juggle to spike. When I started, I practiced juggle to spike and juggle to down spike. I tried to make the levels of those equal. So when I hit 5 juggles to spike, I'd be like, yes, now my next goal is 5 juggles to down spike. I didn't realize back then, but that was actually awesome. I'm actually pretty proud of myself for doing that. That was actually pretty cool because I never felt like I actually was way better at juggle to down spike. I was way better at first. And that's how I was so comfortable. And once you get comfortable, you can spike from any angle. It's amazing. That's what I mean by it can become more comfortable than juggle spike. It has the potential to. So, for this, and also for this reason, we just went over the whole control for juggle spike. Okay, yes, there's definitely control. Use your fingers, use your palm. Like, you're going to be focused on a rotation. But for juggle to down spike, what I do, because of the versatility, is I don't actually focus on control. I don't focus on a perfect earth turn for juggle down spike. I instead focus on floating the Tama up. This, again, goes back to the theme of this presentation. Just making it as easy as possible, okay? When I float the Tama up, it's just any position. I'm going to be good for it. I'm going to be good, And I think it's a waste of energy for me if I try and look at the Tama like I need to rotate it, like do the perfect earth turn so it's floating and boom. And I mean, when I go like that, see that makes it way harder for me. If I go and it's flipping around like that, makes it way harder to whereas if I just go float it up like this and that just floated straight up, it'd be a lot easier. And it's easier said than done to just float it up. What I'm saying is just you don't have to think about doing a perfect earth turn. That's what I don't think about Tama control at all. I just do it. I just float it up and it just happens. Graduation test. Juggle down spike, 6 times out of 10. Spike juggle down spike, 5 times out of 10. Airplane, 1.5, swap juggle down spike, 5 times out of 10. Different positions, juggle to down spike. This is going to help your foundation, and no matter what trick you're on, you're solid. Next up, red belt. Juggles to airplane. This means you can control the Tama to consistently juggle to airplane. You can do better than that. You're not gonna do like that. Utilize the Tama. So we're gonna be utilizing the Tama spin off the 1.5 swap. This is really gonna help you guys in the swap to down spikes. But this is actually just the cheat code for juggles to airplane. I know, Drew, your goal is to do juggles to airplane more consistently. This right here makes them so easy. Honestly, I used to do juggles to airplane and just pray to God that the hole was gonna be there. Honestly, I would sometimes be like, please, 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 and then I'd sometimes be like, oh, okay, like miss, but using the spin, you release that entire thought process of thinking about where that Tama is in general, just altogether. That focus you have on the Tama, you don't need to focus on it because it's there. When you spin it, the Tama hole stays in the same position, and so when you catch it again, it's going to be in the same position, and so all you're focused on is the hardest part, the tracking of the Ken. And that is really just the main tip for that. Once you have that technique figured out and you're this far along in juggles, once you have that technique figured out, you're just golden. You're going to be golden off that.
Zack, sorry, just to mention, because it really helped me when you told me.
Yeah.
When you do the spin, it ends up looking inside your palm. So what you told me is I haven't been able to do it, but it really clicked when you said, like, oh, you have to do this after the spin.
Okay.
I didn't mention it now, so I thought it would be useful because it helped me.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you, Chavi. Yeah. So when I'm spinning, something that I naturally do a little bit is I'll catch it in the same position. As you can see when I spin it, it's a little over to the right. It's not fully straight up. What I do is I catch it, and then it's really hard to show you, but it ends it here, and then I slide it a little back. So there is going to be that first entry to this trick, that little more thought of, okay, it's not going to be perfect. I am going to have to put a little power and focus into changing the angle of the Tama. That's going to happen, but after you get more proficient at it, it's going to be automatic. You're not going to think about it. I almost forgot that I do that, and I did forget in this present. Thank you, Chavi. That's a huge hit that helped me. So definitely focus on that when you're starting it. And it's the graduation test, pull up juggle 1 turn airplane. So that'd be just focusing on pulling up like that. Airplane 1.5 swap juggle airplane like this. And then spike juggle airplane out of the spike. And that's just, again, from different positions, guys. It's going to set you up.
You guys will notice as well that through these progressions, by getting red belt, for example, that means you've done all of the other belts, you've gone through all the other proficiency standards, so you know how to do juggle spikes consistently, you know how to do the finger roll consistently. This is to make it so that you know how to set yourself up in the best way possible when it comes to these harder tricks. How am I going to set up myself the best for a triple flip swap juggle down spike? Well, by now, you're spinning out of these swaps, you're going right here if you're juggling down spike, and that already takes care of it for you. If you float it up from this position, it's spinning like this, it's going to stay there. It's going to be there, and half the battle for Tama control is putting yourself in a position and knowing how to put yourself in a position to make it as seamless as possible. It's very, very cool to see people do a full earth turn, make it go diagonal with their hand and go onto a stall, but what's even greater is just having an optimal position right out of the gate and just doing it effortlessly, and that's a skill in itself. And so we hope that these progression systems help you get to that point. Yeah.
Second to last belt, juggles to stalls. Taking it up a notch.
Here we go.
This is, so brown belt. You're almost a black belt in Tama control. At this point, you are approaching master of the basics. If you've done everything beforehand and you're here, you're approaching master of the basics if you're doing something as precise as juggling to a stall. In this level, it means you're learning to control a Tama off juggles to stall points. So there's a lot less room for error. It's very precise because stalls are very precise. As you can see, there's 3 examples. Juggling to regular bird, juggling to outer bird, and juggling to handle. As you can see, the earth turn and all of them is just right, just kind of just like an earth turn. I'm just setting myself up like this, just happening with my hand. So at this point, you have juggles down And really, the one thing that you're going to be improving upon at this level is the precision of your Tama control. So I actually went over it earlier, but again, a really big emphasis on using the bed of my fingers and just going for volume on these attempts. I'm talking just whether that means for you juggling, practicing from spike, juggle to bird, just for a consistent 15 minutes per day, just solely just focus on that, whether you're trying to end a line or start a line with a juggle to a stall. For example, airplane 1.5, like if you try to do fish special at this point, airplane 1.5, and you made the middle part, juggle to bird, and then end it with juggle Ken flip. Something that's fun, just focus on 15 minutes a day. Volume is really going to be your best friend here. At this point, that's the main thing that's going to help you get more consistent at juggling to stalls because you already have the technique of using the bed of your fingers down. This is also the other main tip for juggles to stalls. You're going to notice that when you get comfortable juggling to spike, you're going to be noticing that you can catch it from you can still juggle to spike no matter how you catch the Ken. For juggling to stalls, it's not the case. If you try and juggle to stall like this, what's the percentage? How is that going to be harder or easier to do it? You know, that's way harder. So this is the level where you actually refine your juggle form even more, because you're not only catching the Ken straight on without your hands on the cups. And don't get me wrong, it's possible to do this. And you see people do this sometimes, but this is going to make it a lot harder for you. Is you're not only practicing catching it under the cups, but just straight on, so your big cup's facing towards you. So when you go for it, it should be looking like this, just regular juggle spike like so. Nothing messy, it makes it way harder. And again, with volume, you do that, but I think it's really important to mention this because after so many juggles, many players can not realize that they're actually not catching it fully straight because they've gotten so used to being able to spike it no matter where they catch it. Graduation test. Juggle to bird 6 times out of 10. Yes, 60% success rate on juggle bird. Juggle over the valley, 5. Juggle to handle stall from pull up, 5. Airplane 1.5 juggle bird, 4. Again, if you can do these, you're a beast. You're a freaking beast at Tama control. I mean, you're amazing at juggling to stalls. Really.
Yeah. We could have been a little more specific on this brown belt. This is emphasizing Ken grip stalls.
Yeah.
This is Ken grip, juggles to stalls. These are what we believe to be the most easy barrier of entry, most easily digestible. But as you can see with black belt, it's going to get a little more difficult here.
Yes. Final belt here. Here we go. Juggles to stilt.
The dream.
Juggles to the dream. Juggles to stilt. Black belt Tama control here. In this level, you're learning to control the Tama as you toss the Ken, so you catch it in the stilt position. Pretty self-explanatory. What should you focus on? Chavi brought it up in the juggle to airplane. Really, this tip, and you'll notice as you try and juggle to stilt, that it is definitely different than juggle to airplane. You're going to have to be more, exactly, the same with juggle to stalls and Ken grip, be way more precise. Juggles to airplane, you can get, even if you don't bring it to the center, you can get them if it's a little off center, right? You can still do it. It's still going to come in. It might alien head a little bit. It's still going to be there. But juggle is still, if you're a little off, if you're not fully straight on, it's not going to work. It's not going to fall on, because I mean that's just not happening. That's what do we do? Madi it? I don't think we're going to Madi it, right? Like so we're going to go catch it straight up. And again, reemphasizing what I said earlier, bringing it back towards the center. You're going to notice when you get to this level that it does take, it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm just bringing it to the center like a normal airplane. No, because when you bring it to the center for a normal airplane, you might do this and it might be sliding by. But yeah, just more precision on this. And once you're at this level, just again, more volume. And this applies to juggling a stilt, juggling an axe, which is very uncommon, but some people do it. And then maybe once you get really good, you can just juggle to backflip stilt or something, or juggle to inward to stilt. The finger roll plays a huge part here, and bring it to the center is massive. And all that's going to help is really just volume on that. If you apply these tips, you're conscious of this main tip right here, which is readjusting the Tama hole at the center of the juggle.
Sorry, I got that.
Please.
Sorry, I keep interrupting, but for the video, I noticed that the spin you did is not good. Well, now it's just a question because.
Oh yeah.
It's not straight.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happens, do you have any tip for, like, are you more aware on the Tama or do you keep your eyes on the Ken?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So I'm really happy you brought that up. The Tama spin, doesn't need it doesn't need to be perfect, and it doesn't need to be perfect in any trick. But the more on tricks like this, where you're not exactly spiking to down spike, you have more time to readjust their hand. It can just be a messy spin. You're still gonna have that time to, you can still have that room to readjust because it's not super precise of like, okay, am I spinning this way? I'm gonna have to bring it back. It's all in the same area generally here. So I actually don't focus on the cleanliness of the spin when I'm doing something like juggle to still, juggle to stall. But when you're gonna notice whenever I swap to down spike that it's always gonna be fully rotating up at one angle. That was bad, but off a swap, it's always gonna be like that. But when I'm doing juggles to stalls or anything, or especially juggle to still or juggle to airplane, I can let it go off a little bit and I'll just readjust. Yeah, and that'll happen for you too.
Do you trust yourself that you're gonna be aware of the Tama, or like from you guys' perspective, when you're doing juggle to still, do you focus on, like, let's say you have a bad spin, you notice it's a bad spin, do you take your attention away from the can and look at the Tama to make sure it looks good, or do you just trust it?
That's a great question. After so many years of experience, and I used to, when I had worse Tama control, when I wasn't actually spinning, when I was just hoping, and I was just really hoping, then yeah, when I would have a not a clean toss for the Tama, I would think about, okay, I would be like, okay, where do I allocate my focus right here? Do I kind of take a peek at the ball and readjust and get the spike? And that would just lead to me being inconsistent at just doing the trick in general, because at that point, if I'm not focusing on one or the other, I'm going to miss.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but for me right now, even if it's like that, I don't think about it at all because I'm just so confident. I just know I can bring it. I can know I can bring it back. If it's just in that general area, I just have so much muscle memory now to where I can just, okay, it's in that general area. I'm going to bring it back and it's going to be center.
Okay.
So
I guess it just became subconscious.
It became subconscious after a point.
I think obviously gonna miss a lot of times. Like the spin, if it's messy like that while I'm practicing it. I should expect to just pray that I put the bevel back up, right?
At first it's gonna feel like, oh my gosh, this is very difficult. Even I'm time spinning it, but why am I not getting it? Like, trust me, that's how I was too. Yeah. I've missed this trick thousands of more times than I've gotten it. Juggle to airplane. It's just gonna come with practice. It's just that being conscious of this technique. That's what's really gonna help you in the long run. It's not gonna be perfect at first. It's not. Again, it's good with the standards, right? Just because you know a technique, just because you're conscious of a technique. You can be conscious of it and theorize about it all you want and talk about it with other players, but that's not going to help you. You actually have to practice it and do it. That's why these graduation tests are so important. Actually being able to do pull-up juggle to still 6 times out of 10, 1.5 squat juggle to still 5 times out of 10. Because at that point, you have no doubt in your mind. You prove to yourself that you can do it. You prove to yourself you have a level of proficiency. It's like, oh, I know how to do it. I can understand how it works. But people, if you're explaining to somebody and they're wanting to know how it works, they're going to want to, if you can show it to them, that's what's going to be the most helpful. So this is why this is so important to not just to think like, oh, I can do that. No, if you can't do this, then you're not at a certain level of proficiency. If you can, you are at a certain level of proficiency. It's really black and white. So.
Yep. And Charlie, just to answer your question a different way, to reiterate the importance of the foundational base that is developed through these levels. If you're worried about, I'm not sure, it's probably going to be hard for me to catch a still a lot if I'm worried about readjusting. If you do all these levels, if you were to do all these levels, for example, from the beginning to top, you won't be worried about that because your foundational base is going to be so strong, it's going to be so consistent that you're just going to be focusing on the still. You're going to know that this is going to be in your hand in the right place. You're going to be able to make the adjustments because it's not going to be your first time making the adjustments. You've made them 1,000 times before, and so that's why it's easy to translate to these higher tricks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a follow-up.
No, please.
You did mention that when you try to look at both, that's where the issue comes in.
Yeah.
So if we go back to the belt where it was juggle to airplane, you don't have to go all the way back, but this is like the idea that when you go back to juggle to airplane, or even juggle to spike, would you recommend somebody who's learning to juggle to not try and focus on both?
Yeah. Okay. I would recommend, at this point, right, if you're progressing like the levels, you are conscious of the Tama spin. And even if it's not perfect, you're still doing it. It's still coming over here. I would just keep focusing on the Ken and just trying to readjust from there. Of course, every 10, 20 tries, for sure, maybe before you maybe don't have an attempt where you go like this, and then just stop in there and just see where your hand is, see where your hand placement is. But really, you're going to learn by just by just failing a lot of times. The technique that I have right now didn't come overnight. It came over so many years. I mean, guys, I think 13 years, well over 10,000 hours, like well over 10,000 hours. You know, so it takes work. But these tips, we didn't know these tips. We had to figure this out on our own and like guess and just I don't know, hope it works. And these are like novel discoveries. We're like, oh my god, it's working. Let's go, dude. I've spent so many years and so much time not doing this. It was so much harder, but now we figured it out. No, but if you guys start this from the get-go, I mean, we're at the level we are now over countless hours over a decade. But I mean, imagine how fast you guys are going to be 5 times faster than us if you guys really keep at it and are conscious of these techniques and this progression system. You guys would be better than progress 5 times as fast as us. So, I'm really excited to like just pass these on to you guys today.
Yeah, It's very, very fun to do it in ways, harder tricks and you maybe out of your comfort zone. We're not saying you have to go in this way. You cannot move on to the next trick until you absolutely cannot even try it before you do all these basics. Yeah. You can do whatever you want. It's very fun to push yourself and try something that's a little outside of the consistency standards here. It's totally fine. These are consistency standards. But it's also very fun to be able to do it in person time and time again. If you're watching a favorite pro in person at an event and they're just lacing all these tricks, that they've gone through something at a standard like this. They've put in the hours, they've put in the reps. So there's 2 ways to look at it. You can definitely challenge yourself, but if you're looking to build up your foundation, looking to build up your base, this is something you can utilize for that.
Yeah. Just give you something to give you undeniable proof that you actually are, that you can do this. Yes. Yeah. So, before we go on to the very, very last portion of the presentation, any other questions besides Chavi you want to touch on?
Maybe later.
Yeah, we can get into all the stuff later. We can touch on this more in depth for each of you guys individually later. Okay, cool. So, after this, really what I want to let you guys think of, what level you guys think you're at right now?
We could go back.
We can go back and show you if you guys took pictures of the graduation test, you can take a look, just see what you honestly think you are right now. And what I mean by that is you look at the test and you're like, I could literally do that right now.
Yeah.
I could literally do that.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah. And we'll be sending this in the Telegram chat. It's already 10:31. So
yeah. But what level are you? Just
yellow or green.
Yellow or green?
Yeah. Nice.
White?
Nice.
Yellow or green?
We're talking about the consistency that you get.
Yeah.
Like low. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the first belts.
I could do it like red.
Yeah. But just the consistency.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But I can practice. I think I can get that.
I could spend like 5 hours trying to juggle still to maybe get it.
Yeah. But the consistency, you're one of the starter belts. Yeah. Okay.
The cool thing is with these tests is it's very, in a way, humbling to know that, wow, I've practiced this much, but if you were to test today, you might find out maybe you're a little lower than you thought, or you're being honest with yourself from the get-go. Oh, actually might be like one of the first levels. That's honestly great. That means that there's work to be done. There's more work that you can do in these foundational bases. And it's really cool that, honestly, even if you pass the level, these are such great tests for consistency that you can measure yourself up anytime. I mean, for Zack and I do brown and black belt right now, no warm-up. It's a very difficult task. Yeah. We'd have to go outside, play with you guys for a couple hours today and be like, oh yeah, we got this. We're feeling honed right now. It's great, even at the highest level. Yeah. It's great to test yourself on that day and just be like, do I have it right now? Am I have it like that? So, very, very good.
So, when we go to the Buffalo Bayou Park, we're about to head out. Let's go. We are actually going to test. We're going to do that. Just to see where you guys are. And then today we can use that. We can use the information that we now know about our skills and of the day to help you guys improve and go to the next level.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah. Thank you guys.
Let's go, guys. Yeah, absolutely.